Welcome to the channel Infinity Studios. In this particular video, I would be explaining in detail about the different software development environments that are in practice. Oftentimes, you might have heard about sandbox environment, production environment, or the staging environment. And also, you might have heard the things like the production server is down, or the users are not able to access the application, or this kind of the common things that we would be hearing as a software engineer. So going ahead, in this particular video, I will explain you in detail about what each of the software development environment is meant for and how do we use them as a software engineer. So to get started, let's assume that you are a software engineer and you're working on building a banking application. And whenever you build an application, you develop the application from your local machine, and once the application is ready, or once the feature in the application is ready, you push it to any of the version control systems like Git, and you store your entire source code onto some of the source code management platforms like GitHub or Bitbucket. So once that is done, you would be taking the feature enhancements or the newly developed features into the production environment in a very sequential way. That means you might be using different cicd tools like Jenkins or Harness or GitHub Actions. So, but in the general practice, whenever you build an application or whenever you develop a feature in an application, the feature or the application doesn't get into the production environment. Instead, it has to go through a different set of environments just to get the approvals or just to get a confidence that our systems are functioning in a well manner. So, the first and the foremost environment that we hear most often is the sandbox environment. So what exactly is the sandbox environment is, it's like a playground environment. So wherein the sandbox environment will have the same replication of the production environment, and in the sandbox environment you can perform the stuff whatever you want. Either you can create the application and you can test the application, or else you can create different resources within the cloud or the environment. Coming to the sandbox environment, this is one of the most common environments we might be hearing very often. So what is a sandbox environment? It is very simple. Sandbox environment is a playground environment wherein you will not be having any set of resources, or you do not have any applications running in the sandbox environment. Instead, you can create sample applications and you can deploy the applications onto the sandbox environment, and you can play around how the application performs, and you can test different set of features which you're unsure about. So sandbox environment is meant for nothing. So you can do whatever you want, and it doesn't distract or cause any issues in your actual development process. And coming to the second environment, which is the development environment, wherein this environment is specifically meant for developers in the team. So whenever you build an application, or whenever you try to build certain features in an application, you push everything into the development environment, and also in a similar way you try to push it into the QA environment. That means whatever the changes we have in the source code management platform, either it may be a GitHub or Bitbucket, so the same changes exist the same in both the different environments, which is dev and QA. So the QA environment is specifically meant for quality analysts or the testers who test the application with their own strategies, and they try to figure out the bugs in the application. So whenever the time the testers or the quality analysts or the QAs, they figure out any bugs, they give it as a feedback to the developers, and developers fix all those bugs right away. And then the application once the application is done with the testing and development features, then it is taken into the staging environment or the staging environment, or else it is called as the pre-production environment, wherein the entire application or the recently built features are showcased to the different stakeholders. The stakeholders can be product managers or the product analyst, or the whomever the business folks might be. So you showcase everything, and once they feel everything is okay and everything looks good, then you take everything into the production environment, and that is where the users will be able to access your application. So you might have a question like, will the environments remain the same for all the organizations? I would say like no. It depends on the organizations, and also it depends on the client who you are working with. For example, if you are working on any banking applications, since you are working in a banking application, you would need more confidence whenever you want to go into live. So in that scenario, you need to have specific set of environments which are specific to their own use case. And if you are working on a very normal application, it doesn't have to require these many complex environments. Instead, it can have the dev environment or the staging or pre-production environment, and then it can have the production environment which is accessible to the users. So that is how these different set of environments are meant for in the actual development process.